I think we're live. This is Baitman Raw, back from the Classic Edition, and I'm pretty lucky. I got a guy next to me that everybody's been wanting to hear on here. I've got Matt Robertson. You may know him as hashtag on him. He is live here in the flesh.
What's up, guys?
So we're back from the Classic. Matt, you fished it last year. What an awesome event. I mean, obviously that's something that hopefully it happens to you more than once in a lifetime. But this year, you had to work the Expo, and I seen you down there at the Strike King booth. You did an excellent job. But how much different was it to have to work the Expo versus getting to fish? Was that a different side of the fishing industry?
So I'll be 100% honest with you. I was dreading going to the Classic. I didn't want to go. I was kind of being a Debbie Downer about, which I'm not usually like that. I even messaged Brian the Carpenter, and I was like, dude, are you excited about going to the Classic? And he's like, hell yeah, dude, it's a great time. I was like, I'll be honest with you, I'm not excited at all. I'm dreading it. But I got down there and got to work in the Expo and talking to people, meeting the fans. Went on Ike Live. Bass Utopia was selling my hats, and I actually ended up having an absolute blast down there.
Dude, I've seen a lot of kids wearing Autumn hats and grown men, which is great. Speaking of Brian the Carpenter, I'm going to give him a shout out. I don't even think he knows who I am, but during media days, he kind of walked past me and went, "The Carpenter," and he kind of laughed. But that was me, if you're listening to this, Brian. But I'll tell you this, the Bass University guys worked their ass off.
Dude, they really did. Like, all day, every day, they were rolling people in and out, you know, doing their Bass University stuff, the Ike Live stuff, and so they didn't have a dull moment in the day. They were working the whole time.
Maybe one day they can have a little redneck Baitman on there. And you brought the Pimp Daddy suit out.
I did. You know, I only bring it out for special occasions. And I think going on Ike Live and getting to talk to guys like Brian, Iconelli. I even got to meet Pat Renwick with Straycast, and that's special enough to me to bring the digs out.
I think when you come over this morning, and I was still asleep, and Matt just almost walked in the house, which is fine. My wife was glowing over those blonde locks. If you put you and Pat in my wife's salon, she would have a field day. And I didn't realize Pat's really not that much taller than me, but he's got this just flowing locks. Man, he's a great guy. But maybe one day I can make it on Ike Live. Obviously, you can say what you want about Iconelli. There's a lot of guys that still don't like him, but I'll tell you right now, he does more for the sport than 90% of people.
I agree 100%. So that I'd met Ike, you know, in passing, you know, met him last year at the Classic. I'm going to tell you who I'm a bigger fan of than Iconelli is his wife. His wife is 100% one of the coolest women I've ever met. She does a lot for this sport behind the scenes, and I like her style. She has the baddest outfits, and she had a necklace last year with lines on it, and you have to be something of a woman to wear a necklace with like 9 line heads and some diamonds in it. 100% badass.
Yeah, there was a lot of cool things going on at the Expo, and I'll go ahead and apologize to my viewers. I haven't uploaded the Expo videos I've done, and matter of fact, it'll probably be after I upload Baitman Raw. I just didn't have time to get around to the whole Expo because I'm working on the water for Mark Menendez and filming him. Obviously, Mark didn't have a great Classic, but let's talk about that a little bit. The conditions these guys were dealt with wasn't the best conditions to catch giant sacks on Guntersville. I've seen freaking people posting, and I'm going to get on a rant here. Oh, it wasn't the same Classic because they didn't have Van Dam and these guys, and the weights would have been 10, 12 pounds more. I'm here to tell you, you could add who you wanted to at MLF, and maybe 1 or 2 guys might have made a difference. It was a tough post-frontal event. We had a lot of water changes there at Gunnersville. I couldn't tell you other than 2 guys that actually caught fish on a swim bait, and that was Zaldane, and I think David Mullins caught some on Scottsboro. It just did not set up like a lot of guys thought it was going to.
Yeah, I agree with you. One thing I have learned in the past is whenever you have a tournament, and if people are out there and don't think that these 50-something anglers aren't the best in the world, they got another thing coming. You don't want to go fish against the current Elite Series guys because they can all catch them. And if you look at the weights, thinking the weights were going to be better, you had a BFL last weekend with the best on the lake, locals, and it only took a little over 20 pounds to win, and the weights dropped off pretty quick. So if you look at the classic weights, it was pretty good considering the conditions.
Right, that's just like Kentucky Lake, man. And these pros watch the weights of, it's public information. And when Kentucky Lake's fishing good, you'll see a lot of these local BFLs and buddy tournaments, the best of the best. When they're all catching 20-plus pounds, you can kind of assume, man, the lake's pretty good right now. If they're struggling, you can kind of assume, the lake's tough. And 20 pounds to win on Gunnersville is like 12 pounds on Kentucky Lake.
Right.
It's crazy, and I just really want to put that to bed, that these guys fishing the Elite Series, although you may not have heard of them like you do some of the guys on MLF, you cannot take anything away. It is tough to qualify for that tournament, whether you go through the Opens, the Bass Nation like you did. It's not easy, and for you to make it, you are one of the best in the world.
No doubt.
So what's going to be your plans for this year? What are you fishing? I know you fished one Open. What all Opens are you fishing?
So I'm fishing all the Eastern Opens, and I'm looking to get into Central Opens. I'm on the waiting list. If anybody knows Gretchen at Bass, sweet talker, tell her I love her, and get me in this Open, in the Central Opens. So I'm fishing the Federation stuff. I won the Okeechobee Regional, qualified for the Bass Nation National Championship right down the road on Pickwick. And needless to say, I'm excited. I like to talk a little shit.
That's okay.
And I'm gonna own that fucking lake come November.
We might have to put a bleep in there, but this is Baitman Raw, so we just do what we want to do. Pickwick is a great lake. I hope it doesn't come around like Kentucky Lake did, where it's got so much pressure, and they do have Asian carp in there, and it is increasing. But saying that, there's been a lot of good efforts here on Kentucky Barkley Lake to try to thin the herd. I don't think they're going to get rid of all of them, but you got to tip your hat to Wade White there, the judge executive at Lyon County, and Mark Menendez and those guys. They are going to Congress. They're trying to get funding. They've got this new universal netting method, and they're already took a couple million pounds out from a couple bays. I know it doesn't sound like much, but that is 10 times better than the keyboard warrior mashing keys saying it's a lost cause, nothing's going to happen. I personally think they'll put this barrier up at Barkley. If it works, you'll start seeing these barriers go at certain mile markers each bridge, and if you can contain those fish in an area, and then you do these mass harvests, when you get them out, they're out. There's no replenishing of those areas, and it costs money. So if you're on the Tennessee River, we saw at Gunnersville, Lee Livesey caught like an 80-pounder big head, and Mark says he saw some Asian carp. I seen what I thought was maybe a small pod. They're there, and they're definitely in Pickwick. So if they're in those two, they're in Chick, they're in Wilson, they're in Wheeler. We've got to do something. So the best thing you do is get on to your local congressman, your local judge executive, say we need to get stuff done. But what I'm going to ask you, Matt, how has that really changed your style of fishing in the past year or two?
So as far as the Tennessee River goes, the way the carp's changed my style is, instead of setting on a big school, knowing you're around 25 pounds, because used to there would be, I guarantee you, 5-pounders in every single school out there. It's just getting them to bite. You're having to run and gun more and focus on 2 to 7 fish schools. And so you're burning a lot more gas, moving around, come back, check a couple fish. Just fishing smaller schools, having to burn more gas.
Right. I think a lot of people, they hear Kentucky Lake and they used to these big giant schools of fish. And when me and you were fishing against each other years ago, fishing USA Bassins and whatnot, you'd fish these big giant schools, but I'll tell you right now, it wasn't all 3, 4, 5 pounders. You had to catch a lot of little ones sometimes to get to the big ones.
Yeah, it's kind of like not quite the same amount of 3, 4, and 5 pounders, but you'd have to go through 30 or 42 pounders to catch your bag of fish.
And that seems to be a little bit what we're missing. And these guys say it's not the same. They're not 100 fish days. Well, we're just missing that 14 to 16-inch fish that normally you're going to cull or whatnot. We do have, there's obviously some great big fish in here. I've seen a lot of pictures this year. I think the lake's getting better. We've had a couple good spawns. But guys are going to have to be patient.
Yeah, I think the lake is actually on an upswing right now. I think in the next 2 to 3 years, you're going to see Kentucky Lake back where it was. Maybe not 100%, but in 2 to 3 years, the lake will be fishing very well.
I think the sleeper's Barkley.
100%.
Now, I'm not going to say too much, but I know me and you have snuck over there, maybe not together, and that used to be where you go get a big bite.
Yeah, you know, Barkley actually won a lot of tournaments in the summertime this year. It had Kentucky Lake's name this year.
Yeah, I've seen pictures of a lot of smallmouth caught on Barkley, and I don't know what's happened. Maybe because you catch so many and you transport them back over there, you've populated Barkley Lake with smallmouth. But man, the smallmouth population over there is good. There's a lot of 3 to 4 pound smallmouth being caught on Barkley, and it's kind of weird because topographically and the bottom content over in Barkley is a whole lot different in Kentucky. But since we've had all these high current the last few years in the spring, a lot of that mud's washing away, cleaned it up. It's made a really good habitat for smallmouth.
Yeah, if you talk to the local fishermen that fish Barkley a lot, all you hear is how many smallmouth they're catching. They're catching a lot of 14, 15 inchers, and then they're catching a lot of 3, 4, and 5 big smallmouth. Not just little smallmouth, but they're catching an abundance of big smallmouth.
Yeah, so what I'm trying to say is, guys, if you used to come to Kentucky Lake, come on down here. I mean, it's not going to be the same. I can't promise you 25-pound bags or whatnot, but if you'll work at it, maybe change up your tactics a little bit.
The lakes are fishing better.
Yeah, it's better. It's worth their time. The local businesses here have been hurt really bad by the Asian carp. Restaurants, stuff like that. And this really ain't a podcast about Asian carp. It's just something me and Matt feel pretty passionate about. Yep. So, got to get down here. But let's talk about Florida. I'm going to be honest, Matt. You might need to permanently live down there because you just keep winning big events in Florida. Why is it that Florida sets up really good for you?
Well, you know, I think I cut my teeth fishing some other lakes around here. A lot of people don't realize, a couple 1,000-acre lakes, some smaller. I'm going to strip mine lakes with grass in it. And man, I just think I'm comfortable down there. You know, at first I was a little intimidated by the grass, but after 1 or 2 trips, I've kind of, you have to embrace it. You have to make your weaknesses your strengths in this sport, and I feel like that's what I've done, you know.
That's one thing I say about the Classic. I think a guy like Hank Cherry, obviously his strength is a jerkbait, and that tournament set right up for him. But there was a lot of guys that they weren't going to plan B, they were going to plan C because it was so tough. And anytime you fish outside of your strength, you're going to either hero or zero. We'd all wish we were real versatile and could do anything, but the reality is, especially me, there's a lot of techniques, man. If I have to put it in my hand, I'm done.
Yep.
I'll try, but I'm done.
I'm with you. It's the same way in Florida. Granted, I was fishing a different style of swim bait fishing. I was still swim bait fishing.
Right.
Swim bait fishing up shallow. And
you used a rage swimmer versus a lot of guys throw the Gambler Big Easy or something like that, and you actually used a red bait. You know, we all know the rage swimmer's like a contact. And why did you choose that bait? Because I know you're going to use whatever you can to win.
So I tried using some of the other stuff like the caffeine shad, the rage swimmer, that style swimmer, your standard Florida swim bait, and And I had some swirls on it and some misses, but and we'd experienced an extreme cold front down there. And I know whenever it's cold here, we all throw, that Kitech style swim bait. So that's what I implemented down there. I kind of switched tactics to the.
Now, did you have a blade on your hook?
No, I didn't. I was just throwing a 16th ounce bullet sinker, and I had it pegged, and that would just keep it. I was fishing super shallow. My boat was dragging the bottom, and I didn't have power poles, and people was making fun of me, but I would trim my motor down to use it as a power pole, and I would just creep that thing under the water, and a lot of times I'd see them come get it from 5-10 feet away, and that Rage Swimmer style swim bait, I think it excels in cooler water, and that water had dropped 25 degrees in a matter of a day or two.
Yeah, we watched the Major League Fishing event down there, and it was really, really tough. But you seen as it warmed up and stuff, the guys were catching them back, basically, I don't want to say burning, but more waking that swim bait on top of the water. Of course, the weights go up, but man, Okeechobee's changed a bunch.
It has, and I actually know a couple guys down there, and they said they've dropped the lake even more now, half a foot to a foot, and I think their goal is to try to burn off some of that muck on the bottom down there to get the lake more fertile to grow better grass.
Right, because we got the Asian carp, but down there in all the Florida lakes, they're in a huge war with the spraying.
Huge war.
I mean, it's some of the guys that I know down there, I mean, that's all they're posting about, and it's kind of a deal. It's a government deal. The government says this, but I can tell you, the guys that know what's wrong with the lake are the guys that are out there fishing every single day. The guides, the tournament fishermen, they know what's up, and you could tell from the coverage, it just did not look like Okeechobee.
No, it didn't. If you talk to any local guy down there, any local fisherman, they hate the spraying. And I think lowering the lake to burn off some of the, the muck on the bottom, I think it'll help with not having to do that as much.
I love spring fishing, but it's just daggum. I'll be honest, it's been plumb shitty here. I mean, I'm looking at Bradford pears. Don't get those mixed up with dogwoods, but usually when they're blooming, there's a lot of fish to be caught, but man, we can't get rid of this freaking rain. I don't know. It probably rained when I was in Alabama. I can tell you this. I got there and it was raining.
Yeah, it's been raining unreal. High currents. We've seen, man, I was on Kentucky Lake and they're pulling so much water. A lot of the stuff I'd normally fish, the current's just rolling over it. And the fish can't really get behind nothing. You can't, the current breaks that were there aren't there. And I think it's going to change the lake a little bit. Maybe not a lot, but it's going to change some of that bank structural current breaks at least.
Yeah. I like to pull out the old red eye shad or 6 cents quake or a lipless and go to town in it. I just don't think I can catch them on it. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I need to be fishing some of the secondary stuff, but I got to rely on people like you to take me because I don't have a boat. But we're going to get after them. But let's talk a little bit about spring fishing, Matt. I know you're going to throw a swim bait, but what's some of your other go-tos? You don't have to say red eye shad because I know you got a box full and everybody listening to this has got red eye shads.
Yeah, so I'm actually a big jerkbait fisherman as well. And I like to fish jerkbait a lot faster than a lot of people. And a lot faster cadence. I like the reaction bite. I'll tell you one thing I've done this winter/spring is, and I'm not big on this, and that's I've thrown a jig a lot this year, and I've caught them. I'm not a jig guy. I hate it. Had a buddy catching a few on it, so I tied one on, and on my second cast I caught almost a 9-pounder. So
yeah, I'm the same way. Now I like throwing a jig, but it comes down to I might be dumb, but I ain't stupid. So if I'm fishing with someone and they're whipping me on something, I'm going to change to it. And, it's weird in fishing, and I know you've seen it out here. It's like for 1 year, there's a bait, and they just bite it better than others. And like a big worm a few years ago, I couldn't get them to sniff a jig. You throw a worm in there, boom,
You get
they
bit.
they bite it. And I don't know what it is that makes fish do that. I don't know if it's what they're eating on the bottom, or maybe they're like my wife. They're just damn moody.
Yeah, fish are moody for sure, but you will see a year that for some reason a particular bait, I saw it, back in the day, the Bass Trick swim bait.
Yeah.
There was a couple years there where that old Bass Tricks, if you wasn't throwing it, you wasn't catching a whole lot,
I just bought some more when I was down there at Guntersville, and I need to apologize to Tim at Scottsboro. I was going to come by there, and that commute from Guntersville for what I was doing, the filming, having to take off, then an hour and a half drive to Birmingham, didn't allow me to get down. Right, Tim, I'm going to come down there and hang out with you. Scottsboro Tackle is an awesome, awesome store, and great. Dude, they make great swim baits, as you know.
And those of you who don't know, if you're driving past Guntersville, you need to stop in there, especially if you're a swim bait fisherman, because they have a lot of West Coast swim baits in there. They have Huddlestons, Ospreys. I mean, they have, the first time I went there, I was in awe because of all the different types of baits that you don't see in your standard tackle store that you're going to go in there and find.
Right. And they got 3/16 swim baits. You know how hard those are to find. Mikey over there, he doesn't just sell to anybody.
Yep.
And he's got them. But if you don't know, Bass Tricks is no longer making swim baits. So Bruce over at Bass Tricks got overloaded. His quality was kind of hit or miss. And from what I was told, Tackle Warehouse has one giant order coming, and that's it. He's not selling to independent shops anymore or anything. So I had to snatch me some up because, in my opinion, I know y'all have heard this. It is the OG. It is the Bass Tricks started this whole craze.
The original 7-incher, buddy. I probably have 200 of them, and I ain't coming off of them.
I might have sold a bunch of those to you.
You did.
I remember a day he come in his shop and just freaking cleared us out.
I told him, he got me one of those big plastic totes. I said, fill it up.
And we did, but I found a color I didn't even know that they made. It's called Sexy Rexy. It's like a pearlish white with a purple back, which I gotta have me some purple, and it's got yellow kill spots on it.
Oh gosh, that's your color, dude.
And then my favorite color has always been Hitch number 1.
Yeah.
It's just it's got that goldish back and a little bit of blue on it. It's a very natural color, but I've caught them on that color at Guntersville, Pickwick, Kentucky Lake. It really just imitates a shad. And I know guys want the shad color, but for some reason that gold, especially on an overcast day, it's kind of like a spinnerbait.
Yep.
I always like a gold blade on my spinnerbait, especially on an overcast. I feel it gets bit. And man, if it weren't for the Bass Tricks, I wouldn't have these freaking Scottsboros, which is probably the next best thing. And then I've got Working Class Zero. I've got burrito baits, you name it. But all that started
with the Bass Tricks.
With the Bass Tricks, and
yeah.
So shout out to Bruce for making an awesome swim bait. I hate that it come to an end, but
thanks for getting it started.
Yeah. Thanks to Skeet Reese, Joker, when he blew it up, you couldn't find those suckers anywhere.
No, you had to go break the shelves wherever they were at and call it good.
Yeah, let's talk about baits for a little bit. What we're seeing right now after the classic Mega Bass plus 110. So that's a Vision jerk bait that goes, about 4 to 8 foot?
Yep, deep diver.
And that color Hank caught them on was called Stained Reaction. It's the only white color they make with the red eye. I was actually able to snag up a couple of the special classic run Visions. They were limiting them to like 2 a person at one time there.
And the colors look really good.
They do. Strike King, obviously Matt's a Strike King guy. Probably one of the most underrated jerk baits.
No doubt.
For the price.
I love the 300 series.
Yeah,
that's my favorite.
300s, I've got a box full of them. I've got the 6 cents Provokes. But now everybody and their brother, as much publicity as the Mega Bass got, everybody's buying up fire crawl jackhammers. Just a red jackhammer. I don't know if you throw a jackhammer or Thunder Cricket, but if you can't get that color, guys, y'all can put your own skirts on there.
Yeah, I mean, they make red and orange skirts all day. You can get the same, the black blade, swap the skirt out, and you got the exact same thing.
Now, do you throw a bladed jig quite a bit, Matt?
I do in cold water. Once the water warms up, I'm usually throwing a spinnerbait. I'm more of a spinnerbait guy, but I do know around grass, cooler water, winter, spring, that's whenever that chatterbait excels.
Mm-hmm. Originally, I said the guy that won the Classic would be the guy that was really good with the bladed jig. No, I don't.
They did well.
They did well. It's just hard to beat a dadgum bridge there in the spring at Guntersville.
Yeah, I was talking to a couple people, and they were asking me what I thought, and I told them, I said, well, I don't know who or what on, but I'd give you odds on your money that it's one off a bridge, and it was. You just can't beat them in cold water up there.
Why do those fish relate to the bridges so much? You might know that more than me.
Man, my best guess is especially with the current right now. I think if we hadn't had the current flowing through the Tennessee River, it might played a little bit different. You might have seen more of those river channel grass beds play. But I think it's just a big stopping point going to and from spawning areas. And I know the fish aren't spawning right now, but I know the first week or two of April they will be moving up hard. I was there last year, the first week of April. And let me tell you, one thing I didn't realize on Guntersville is whenever those fish move up to spawn, they all go. I had a couple deep schools that I found 2 days before the tournament. I catch 25, 30 pounds out of on a 6XD and in some grass. But 2 days later, I pulled up there, lost a 7-pounder, didn't get another bite, idled over it. There's only 5 fish there. And they were gone. And then the next day there was only 2 fish there, and I had to go to the bank each day because they all went to the bank. So I think those fish push up to those bridges and stage there, and then whenever it is time, they all push up to the bank.
Right. Now here, I've always said, once it's spawning time, we get a lot of waves. You'll have a good wave in the 1st of April, then a couple weeks, then you have another wave. It seems all the way to maybe even into June last year that these fish were just coming in and spawning. And that's why I think the shallow water guy on Kentucky Lake can do
very well.
Very well. We got a little bit of noise here. Got a couple Blackhawks from Fort Campbell. Looks like they're fixing to fly right over my roof.
Yeah.
That happens about every other day.
But Drew Boggs has proved that you can win on shallow water here on Kentucky Lake. He is one of the best. And whenever he shows up, he'll catch them every time. And I'm going to say 90% of the time, he's got a flipping stick in his hand.
And again, fishing your strengths.
That's right.
And Drew can fish out deep.
He can fish offshore, but whenever Drew, I'm not going to say he hasn't won offshore because I know he has, but I'm going to assume whenever Drew Boggs weighs in his fish, they come flipping or doing something shallow.
Right. Just like I assume when you bust these 26, 27-pound bags, you've got some sort of big swim bait in there.
That's right, 90% of the time.
Too bad you suck in June.
I know, I suck in June. I love it.
Yeah. So the story is, I'll let y'all guys know, a local guy, I won't say his name, saw Matt at the boat ramp. And Matt had already won a couple big tournaments in the spring. And I don't know if he said it as a joke or if he was serious. And he just said, well, too bad you kind of suck in June, Matt. You need to get better at that. And, dude, did Matt go on a freaking tear like I've never seen.
Yeah, I had to make a point about that, It's a running joke, and, I've talked to that guy since, and everything's cool. But and I don't know if he thought, misspoke or whatever, but I was just kind of like, what the heck, dude, But anyways, we've kind of proved that theory wrong the last couple of years.
I don't think there's a time you suck, but I'll tell you this, from what I know about Matt, it's not just he goes out and catches them in a tournament. Matt works his butt off. And so, to the people that are watching, younger guys on here, if you want to get good on your lake or you want to be a good fisherman, instead of running around chasing women or all that stuff when you're young, save that for later after you've spent hours and hours on your lake. Matt, as soon as he'd get off work, I'd see him boat, truck, and trailer driving. He's practicing till dark every single day.
Yeah, if somebody was looking for me, they knew where to find me. I'd get off at work at 2:30, and even in the wintertime, if I only had till 5:30, I would be on the lake. And sometimes I'd be crappie fishing in the wintertime, but a lot of people don't realize that whenever you go out there, whether you're crappie fishing or bass fishing, you're still having to find a species of fish.
Right. And a lot of fishing is finding fish. I think there's some great fishermen here and across the country that they're unbelievable if they don't have to find fish.
Yeah.
They're not so good at finding them, and that's where you turn into guys fishing spots and fishing memories versus guys that are practicing. They're looking for fish, whether it's with their electronics or old school ways, just throwing Carolina rigs, stuff like just getting bites. And it's not so much in a tournament because things are changing. You have to keep up with the fish.
Yeah, so I'm going to give what I think is the best advice a fisherman can have that's wanting to tournament fish, and that is to stop trying to catch fish. Stop making your goal whenever you go out there to catch fish. Because I see guys going out there, especially young anglers and all anglers. They go out there on a Friday or a Thursday or a Saturday night in a tournament, and they go out there and they will bang up on some fish. Mm-hmm. They know what school's here, and they go out there and they want to catch.
Right.
Stop catching fish. If I know fish are in a spot, you'll never see me on it unless it's tournament day. I can know where 100 fish are, and I will not even look over there whenever I'm out there not in the tournament. I spend all my days learning how to find them. Right. And the different places they go to and whatnot. That's
kind of how I always operated. Is I wanted to catch, and so I didn't fish that many tournaments at one time. But I'd be out there looking, and I'd find a few. Man, I just want to yank on something, and that is a hard habit to break. But then once I started getting more serious and fishing with Jeff Defew, and I still call him my fishing partner, but we really haven't fished a whole lot lately. And he's a working man. I'm a working man. I got kids. He's got grandkids. He can send them grandkids home. I can't do nothing with mine. But when we were out there practicing, it was, no, we're not going to go over there. We know there's fish. If they don't show up in the tournament, no big deal. We're going to try to find some more fish. So you can essentially take maybe 2 or 3 schools and turn those into 4, 5, or 6 schools.
That's right.
Back in the day, it might be 20, 30 schools.
But now it's dwindled down. Yeah.
And I think now we're fishing for individual groups. Like you said, 2, 3, 4 fish. If you can get one to bite, it's going to be a good one. Yep. And you got to put yourself a milk run and might hit I don't know how many you hit, but I would say at least 30 to 40 spots.
No doubt. I fish 30, I'm going to say 30 to 60 spots depending on the day and the time of year. And I do most of the looking with my electronics, and I've got you got to gain confidence in your electronics, and I know everybody says that, and I'm kind of tired of hearing it, but I'll give you an example. It's me and Sherbert in the Triton tournament, idled over a spot down by Blood River, and I said there's 2 down there, picked up the trolling motor, we both cast back there, and he catches one about 3, and I catch one about 3. And I wasn't even going to make another cast. I was going to pull it up, and I said, let's go. He's like, well, what if there's another one? I was like, well, all right, we'll make a couple more casts. And we fished there for about another 20 minutes, never got another bite. And I think, we could have caught another one. And I don't know if it was coincidence that we didn't, but that's how much confidence I have in my electronics. Is I know how many fish is down there. If I see 2, I'm going to catch 2, and I'm pulling the plug, and I'm rolling to the next one, you know. I may make 5 more casts, but you gotta gain confidence, not only in your electronics, but yourself, and have no self-doubt.
That's one thing about Matt, and I think it's misunderstood. People go, man, he's cocky. Well, I say it as a confidence thing, because when KBD came in the sport, all you heard was, oh, this cocky guy from Michigan or whatnot. Well, he won, and he still wins. He's still one of the best fishermen on the planet. But if you're not confident in what you're doing, whether it's on your electronics, and right now that's huge, or even your equipment, it changes things on the water. Me, man, I like those swim baits. I like spinner baits, lipless baits in the spring. If I'm catching them on that, watch out, because I will figure out where some big ones are. But if I'm having to throw a freaking weenie worm or a Ned rig, I'll just assume to sit in the bottom of the boat and eat peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
Yep.
Now, I'll do it if that's what it takes, but don't expect me to have a blockbuster day. It's just, the confidence is a big thing, and I know some people think it rubs some people the wrong way, but why wouldn't you be confident? Why would you want to even fish if you didn't feel that you could compete or catch fish?
Yeah, so and I know, I will tell you this. Whenever I go fishing anywhere, Florida, Kentucky, Tennessee, the Classic, anytime I've ever put the boat in the water, and I know this, I think this is hard for people to understand, but, and even my wife's talked about it, and with her, because she has a little bit of self-doubt in certain aspects of things, and I know a lot of people do. It's going to sound weird, but I don't know what it's like to have self-doubt, if that makes sense. I
Yeah,
mean,
it does.
I mean, it's just the way I'm made up that I believe 100% that I can win. Like, I think I can win every tournament I fish. I think there's a formula to win every tournament throughout the year, a practice formula to figure out each body of water. And I know that sounds insane, but I actually believe that. And a few years ago, whenever Ray Hanselman won every coasting in the championship, that solidified that my idea was correct because the man won every one of them.
That dude's a hammer, too.
Yes. I've never met Ray. I'd like to meet Ray. Like the guy. I don't even know him in a lot.
Super nice guy. And it's funny you mentioned that because I saw him at the Classic. And the last time I saw him, I sold him a couple A-rigs for when he won. Then it was the Stren Series Championship on the river. And I walked up to him, he knew exactly who I was, and said, "Man, I haven't seen you in a long time. You doing all right?" And I said, "Dude, I never got to shake your hand after that. Dude, I was so impressed." And I said, "I didn't even know you were the guy that won the 3 in a row." But super nice guy. He took a break there for a bit because his son was growing up, good baseball player. And he made the Forcewood Cup and made a speech about, he was going to take a year off, blah, blah, blah. And he was very emotional. I really respect a guy that puts his family first like that. And obviously fishing wasn't as big a part of his life then as it is now because he had all kinds of pressure from all kinds of people. Go fish the tour, go fish the Elite Series.
And he wouldn't go fish the tour.
Yeah, he wouldn't do it. And but that guy's a hammer. Made the Classic, had a decent finish, and he was kind of one of my sleeper picks.
He's a sleeper, so I'm not going to say that Ray Hanselman is underrated because I think any decent fisherman who knows the sport knows how dangerous he is at any time. But for a lot of the people who dabble in the sport, I don't know if they know who Ray Hanselman is, but you don't want none of that dude. You don't want none at all.
Don't want none of that smoke. There's a lot of guys out there that are like that, and like I said, just because they're not fishing MLF doesn't mean they aren't the world's best fishermen. I think David Mullins is a hell of a fisherman, one of the best.
David Mullins, Brandon Lester.
Yep.
You got some of them in there that's phenomenal. It's one thing you're going to learn about a lot of the guys, especially the new guys in the Elite Series, that they own their local lakes.
Yes.
They own the local lakes.
And it's tough to win on your home lake.
Yeah, it is.
John Cruz had a great finish. I really like John. He's a great businessman. He's been super nice to me ever since I was working at Fisherman's Headquarters, 15 years old. He wanted to talk to me, and great crankbait fisherman, good offshore. He's a good shallow water fisherman too. A lot of people don't realize it.
He's had a good year this year, and I think you're going to see him possibly give the Anglers of the Year a run for the money in bass.
I would like to see that because I think John's paid his dues.
I think so.
Obviously I'm a Mark Menendez fan, so Mark and you got a few others that are kind of in that old school.
Yeah.
But they have a big following because they're now the faces once all these guys left. And Mark's an excellent fisherman.
That's
right. He had an awesome year last year. Made the Classic, but he had several top 20s. He almost won there at St. John's. He led. He's going to fish old school, and that resonates with a lot of people too.
That's right.
You're not going to see Mark throwing a lot of Ned rigs anymore.
No. He's going to have a crankbait, a spinnerbait in his hand, and you see him doing work.
Now, let's just, we're going to swap subjects because that's what I like to do because things pop in my mind. Tell me a little bit about Matt Robertson people don't know. I'm just going to put it out there. You are a huge old school wrestling fan.
Yeah, so me and Wendell grew up watching wrestling. We used to have wrestling over at my house in the backyard on the trampoline, and we'd have our own title matches with the fake belts. Even used ketchup for blood, got that crap in my eye. burns the crap out of your eye. And we, man, I grew up watching wrestling. I don't know anybody in our generation that didn't. I know it's not as popular as it once was, but, and dude, that's kind of the reason I came out to the Classic and did what I did is I always said I would never go out in front of everybody and just wave. I mean, in our sport, the way I look at it is you don't really get to spectate from the stands like other sports like basketball or anything or baseball. So, I mean, and give the fans something, but give something back to the fans for coming out and see you, more than just a wave. And just, be yourself, give back to the fans, and make it a good, enjoyable time for everybody.
If you had one professional wrestler to cut a Matt Robertson promo with, who would it be?
Oh, gosh. I know Wendell and Eric are going to slam me for... I'd probably have to do it with Wendell, and he'd be the Macho Man, and I'd be Hulk Hogan.
That was...
Eric would say I need to be Mr. Perfect, because I think I do everything perfect. But and my wife. Like, that's what they're going to say. But, so...
Yeah, I was a big wrestling fan, too, man. It's... I've tried watching it with Baitman Jr., and I don't get into it like I used to. But, man, that whole... I joke about it, but the whole MLF Bass thing is kind of like WCW NWO Invasion. Yep. And at the end of the day, guess what? WCW came back out on top.
That's right.
I'm trying to find who is the Sting, who is coming down to save this place.
That's right. But it was good to see all the Major League Fishing guys, the majority of them. There was some not there, but it was good to see the Major League Fishing guys at the Expo, and it kind of seemed like the Expo or the Classic numbers were down a little bit from last year, and you got other things going on.
I think a lot of that was that commute. And I'll be honest, I'm go Vols. I know there was a lot of Roll Tide there. Birmingham isn't exactly the prettiest city I've ever been in. I know it's the home of bass and all that, but they had a lot of construction going on. A lot of people were really confused. Yep. It seemed a lot of people working the event, not the bass crew, but the stadium staff. They didn't know where you should go, do all this, and it confused a lot of people. And I think some people just got hung up in the expo or after the weigh-in. They're like, we got to get out of this traffic jam. But I also do think the expo was spread out good enough where you weren't like asses to elbows to people the whole time. You could.
That's right.
Walk
you
around.
Had different little rooms. They had basically 3 floors. The 2 lower floors were bigger, and the other floors were a little more spread out. But it was good, so everybody wasn't bumping into everybody like you said.
The only thing about the 3rd floor is I kind of felt bad for some of the guys because people didn't know you could go up there for the first day or two. And the last day they were funneling people up there. You'd come in the door and say, "Go up here," blah blah blah. And that's where my buddy Ryan Coleman with Spot Sticker was. I got some new spinner baits from him. They're awesome. Mike Buca had an unreal display of swim baits.
I didn't realize all the swim baits that Bull Shad made. I mean, I was up there with Hunter Riddenor, and I'm going to tell you first, a dude that knows everything about a swim bait.
That is him.
That's the dude. Like, he should be famous for what he knows about a swim bait, and he's not. And he's just a little small town Tennessee
thinks he's
guy.
famous, though.
Oh, I'm telling you. He knows about a bull. He can tell you the O-rings, the hooks, everything. And I was very impressed with the Bull Shad.
Hunter is a great dude, by the way. And he'll wear me out.
Yeah.
Like, I love him to death. I'd do anything for him. But he'll get to the point where he'll wear me out sometimes. But he don't mean bad. But like Matt said, he knows everything about a Bull Shad and tons of other swim baits, too. But
he's going to answer more technical questions about a swim bait than probably anybody else I know.
Yeah. Mike had an awesome display. I mean, he had the new Bull Shad HD, which is an updated look. Really good look, especially once he had a bunch of custom painters paint them up for the show. And if you're listening and interested, Mike did say he's going to have a bunch on some bait drops on his website, which is bullshad.com. He had the 4x4 Bull Gill, which is new.
Good looking bait.
He had the Peanut, which is a little bitty rat bait, kind of like a little wake bait. He has a Bull Trout now.
It actually looks really good.
It did. I was kind of worried when he told me what he was doing. I thought, well, is he just going to paint a trout pattern on the bull shad? And he actually changed the body up, and it looks good.
Yeah.
And you've told me this many, many times. You fish a trout bait on lakes that don't have trout.
Yeah. So we don't need to talk about that much, but
okay. Well,
I do. I'm just kidding. I throw trout baits everywhere I go. Whenever I was down in Florida for the team championship and I already had the 32 pounds, I pulled out a 10-inch Huddleston trying to catch a giant. Mm-hmm. You know, because I know 10, 12, 14 pounders live in the Harris chain, and I spent that last little while really, I thought, man, if I could catch one of them absolute giants.
Yeah. So it's funny is when all that bass tricks craze was going over, the ones that always sat on the shelf was rainbow trout. Oh, no, I don't want that. When Matt comes in, you know, he goes, I want those trout ones.
Yeah, so I can't believe you remember that. And I still have a lot of those. And that's probably my most used color, the trout and the Tennessee. But, I mean, if you look at a trout color, a lot of the pink in it is a light pink. It has a good brown back, has the speckles on the side. I mean, that imitates many different fish.
Right. And at the end of the day, a bass is a bass.
They're going to eat whatever.
You put a meal in front of them, they're going to eat. They don't get big for being picky eaters.
No.
But, man, back to the expo, there was a lot of great vendors there. You know, I'd never seen Mega Bass at a classic, and they were there. Obviously, they had the special colors. You know, Lou's had a good booth, and Strike King, you're a Lou Strike King guy. Yeah. Missile Baits launching new stuff. A lot of boat companies there.
The new Camus and Vexus was there. I mean, I'll tell you a boat I didn't know they was making. Mm-hmm. That I saw that was right next to Strike King Lou's was a Charger boat.
Yeah, I wonder if they're still using that old Champion style hull on it.
It kind of looked like it, to be honest with you.
Lee Livesey runs that ballistic boat.
Yeah.
And I've never seen one in person. And that's a nice son of a gun. Now, they only make 14, 15 boats a year. They're in Idaho. And when I was coming in from filming Mark on the second day, there was a guy, his name's Brian Dodge. He owns Duck River Marine, and he has a ballistic boat. And they were doing a on-the-water test and drive, and they had 3 or 4. And, dude, in the water, them suckers look awesome. I know they're fast. But they're more set up for fishing, it looked like, than some of your, you know, strokers and Allisons. Now, I like Allison.
Allisons have done a lot to that. They've went more towards the fishing than just a fast boat. I think a lot of people are veering away from Allison, but let me tell you something. They have made changes to the layout of the boat, and veering it very towards fishing.
Right. A lot of people always assume Allison is just a really fast boat. And we got I was told the biggest Allison dealer in the country here in Grand Rivers, that's Tim Pout, Fast Bass Marine. And this also goes back to the customer service, knowing your product. There ain't anything about an Allison Tim Pout don't know.
Yeah, so Tim Pout's a real good guy, too.
Awesome.
A lot of people don't realize he is one of probably the top Mercury engine guys in the country.
Yes.
Like, they call him to go to Florida and to run these Allisons, if that tells you anything.
And he kind of started his business, American Dream here. I think he was an engineer or something before. Electrical engineer, was just tinkering, kind of doing stuff on the side. And he started installing depth finders. And we all installed a boat motor, and it's really turned into a good business.
2 years, he's got a boat dealership working on boats, and every time I drive by there daily, and that dude is busy.
He's a super nice guy, and he used to be. I don't know how much he fishes anymore. I think he still does. He's a stick on the river.
Yeah, like him and his buddy Joey Jeffries on the river, they're hard to handle. Old school smallmouth fishermen don't fish up by the dam much, fish downriver, and they
yeah, if you're fishing a river tournament and Tim Powell and Joey show up and Matt Bryan and Chad Porter show up, you're fishing for third probably.
That's right.
Do you do much river fishing?
Man,
or is that just not your style?
So, I grew up fishing down there on the river. We'd have tournaments down there. Wendell, big time river, loves it down there. Me, I don't like it so much down there. It's not that it doesn't fit my style, but I like to fish where the money's at. And there's no money to be made on that river.
The only time there is when it's like an EverStart championship
Yep.
or some kind of big championship. I know they do have the Renegade series down there,
Yep.
but that's just a qualifier for the big.
And you can win
Renegade
$600-700 down there. But whenever it comes to fishing big money, I know that sounds horrible, but I like to fish for big money. You know.
There's a lot of people who only play cards for big money.
That's right.
I mean, I don't knock it at all. I mean, it's kind of like poker. Would you rather put $200 in to win a $10,000 pot, or you want to put $20 in to win a $400 pot?
Yeah.
Me, if I'm good enough and I feel I can do it, I want to win the most money I can.
I'm with you.
Well, what's some other Matt Robertson stuff that people don't know, or misconceptions about Matt?
Well,
Because I like to talk fishing, but Baitman Raw is kind of about stuff that you're normally not going to hear on a podcast.
well, I'll be straight up about it. So, I know especially locally, I think I got a reputation of being a dickhead.
Yeah,
And
you are.
Yeah,
No, I'm just kidding.
and I get that, but man, I think that a lot of that's coming from a lot of people that don't know me, haven't talked to me. Strictly, they're going off reputation. And I'm going to tell everybody that's listening, just like, never stereotype anybody.
I agree.
Come talk to. If you see me out, don't think, oh man, there's Matt, he's a dick. Come talk to me and get to know me, man. I'll talk to anybody. I'm willing to. Dude, I'd give somebody a shirt off my back. I'm guilty of stereotyping people. There's a couple guys fishing the Elite Series. I watch them, and I think, I'm not going to say his name because I've really become to be a fan of this guy. I really like him. He talks to me every time I see him. Real nice guy, but I thought, man, he's one of the most arrogant fishermen I've ever seen, at least on bass, watching the Bassmasters. And in person, dude, I'm telling you, there's not a better guy walking the planet.
You know, it's funny. Me and you have known each other for a long time. Now, we're not best friends. I don't ask you to come over and sleep with my wife or something like that. I really don't do that to anybody. Just making a joke. But I can call you about any time, and you'll call me back.
Yep.
Or a lot of times you call me, and I forget to call you back because I'm busy. But, we've always been able to talk to each
for
other
about 20 years almost.
Yeah, so I was working at a tackle shop, and Matt would come in like every Saturday morning when I was working or whatnot, and he's always buying him a gallon or 2 gallons of Yamaloop. He had an old Skeeter.
Yep.
I had a Skeeter, and we'd always talk. And then Matt, I'm not going to say you sucked, but it was just you were really learning the lakes. But you were putting your time in. We'd fish against each other. And you're still competitive, and then you really, as other people started to do other things, you kept at it on the water and everything. But how many times have we sat in the parking lot or in the tackle store and just talk about everything from wrestling to fishing to freaking NASCAR to who knows what? I mean,
Dude, me, you, and Tyler used to sit up there and just talk and for hours about, fishing or unfishing related stuff. I mean, if anybody knows me, whenever I'm out and about, it may be a surprise, but I don't talk a whole lot of fishing just out and about with people, And it's not that I'm not willing to. It's just I like talking about other stuff just like anybody. And, dude, we'd have great conversations. You know?
Yeah. I've always said this, and you can get yourself in trouble talking about fishing. I don't mean it bad, but you sometimes have to focus on other things because it's just like people that are obsessed with their work, sometimes they end up not doing as good a job because they get too meticulous and too picky, and you've got to leave yourself some breathing room or you'll get burnt out. And you're like me. You watch YouTube videos of people getting hit in the nuts or World Star Hip Hop, and you're cracking up. It's not bass fishing 24/7. Now, when it's go time, you're serious.
Yeah. I will tell you something I am a big fan of. And that's mixed martial arts.
Me too.
And we both are. And if anybody wants to come up and have a great conversation, let's talk about some fighting.
All right, I'll talk about some fighting. So when I started watching MMA, it was old school UFC. I was like a senior in high school, and the guys were talking about this UFC. The first one I ever watched was Frank Shamrock versus Tito.
Yeah.
And so I've always said Frank was the true pioneer, because not only could he
Tito's
hit
still
you.
fighting.
Yep. Frank had the cardio. And when he basically beat Tito by cardioing him, people really were like, okay, you just can't go in there like Tank Abbott and slinging haymakers. And then
There's a different aspect to the sport.
right. I mean, I've watched it really religiously, like some of you guys watching bass. And the last few years I hadn't watched as much, because a lot of the guys I liked, and you could relate this to fishing, they've gotten older, they've moved on. I was a huge Rampage Jackson fan. I thought he was funny as shit. I like how he fought. I was never a big Chuck Liddell fan, and Rampage always had his number.
Wendell was a Chuck Liddell fan.
Yeah.
Like, all I heard about was Chuck Liddell. But man, I've kept following it. And actually, one thing I'll tell you, if you want to run into me somewhere, go to Buffalo Wild Wings in Paducah on a big UFC fight. Me and my wife will be there watching it.
I might take you up on the next one. I haven't watched one in a while. I like the guy, the Beast. You know who I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Heavyweight, Derrick
Lewis.
Derrick Lewis. His
He
Instagram
kills
is
me,
hilarious.
dude. He's the funniest guy I've ever seen.
I wish fishing did have more guys that had a personality like you or Gerald. Aaron Martin's has got a funny personality. You just don't understand what he says half the time because he's whispering. But
for those of you who don't know Derrick Lewis, after he won a big fight, Joe Rogan asked him why he took his shorts off, and his response was, "Man, my balls are hot." So
I remember watching that. I remember watching that live, and my wife was like, "What did he just say?" I was like, "Hey, you know, when you're sweating, it's different when you're a dude."
Yeah,
but
YouTube it, you will crack up. Best of Derrick Lewis.
Yeah, but the sport's evolved. So I want to say this: the UFC, and I don't know if you guys know, you probably know, it started as a failure,
Yes.
and Dana White bought that company for pennies on the dollar now.
Yes, and they turned it into something.
It's the biggest sport on the planet.
Yes.
I would say, next to NFL. I mean, used to, you wait every 2 or 3 months for a pay-per-view. Now it's like pay-per-view
Once a month, once every 3 weeks, and you know, they're all good fights.
So what you're saying is you're winning all this money fishing so you can watch MMA.
That's right.
Yeah.
I pay for the pay-per-views. I've started going to Buffalo Wild Wings. I hate to sound like cheapskate, but I figured, man, I can go up there and watch it and eat a meal for cheaper than I can buy the fight. So
Yeah.
that's
Plus,
where
they got
I'm at
good
on
food.
Saturday nights after we fish. I'm at Buffalo Wild Wings watching the UFC.
So Buffalo Wild Wings, if you're listening, we need a fishing sponsorship.
That's right.
I'll come do a Baitman podcast during an MMA event with Matt at Buffalo Wild Wings.
We can do it.
That would be pretty awesome. Yeah, I can talk fighting a lot. I've kind of gotten out of it. I was always a big Rampage fan. I was a big George St. Pierre fan, too.
So probably the best MMA fight in history happened this past Saturday night.
Yeah, I missed it.
You want to...
Go ahead.
Horrible with names. You want to... Joe Jacek or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Fought Chinese girl, Wei Li Zhang.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, you want to see a fight where it's nothing but raw punches.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, these girls, for 5 rounds, did nothing but go out and bash each other's head
Kind of like
in.
the old Bonner-Griffin fight, just going at it.
They just went at it, and Joanna, you couldn't even recognize her. Her top, she looked... Oh, man. Looked like the guy off the Goonies at the end. Sloth off the Goonies. That's what she looked like in the end. But it was the best
All right,
fight ever.
saying this, who is 2 fishermen you would like to see in an MMA match?
Oh.
I'm going to
2?
put mine out. Boyd Duckett and Mike Bucca in a cage.
Oh, gosh. 2.
And that don't mean we don't like you. We just think it'd be a good matchup.
So, I'm going to say, I want to see... So, I like Swindle.
Mm-hmm.
Proclaimed redneck. I want to see the proclaimed redneck fight somebody. You know, I want to see...
Swindle's got chicken legs, though.
I know.
I think a couple of leg kicks he'd be done for.
He's supposed to be old school. He's supposed to be a South Alabama boy, and a South Alabama boy ought to be able to fight.
Right.
You know? I want to see two nice guys fight, him and Palahniuk. Let's just make two guys who I don't think could fight. Let's see what they got.
Yeah, two guys that would rather talk it out.
Yeah, rather talk it out. It's like, okay, let's not talk. Let's just hit each other.
Yeah. Well, I for reasons that may be known, I'd like to see Boyd in Buka, but I always heard that old Jimmy Mize was a guy you didn't want to mess with.
I'm going to tell you who looked. Skeet Reese had his pretty blonde hair. And I thought, yeah, he's a little California sissy girl. And then he shaved his head and looked like a dude you didn't want to mess with.
I'll tell you this from filming Skeet, he's always been as good as gold to me. Great guy. Another guy misunderstood.
Yep.
He's intimidating on the water because he doesn't talk a lot. He's very focused. When it's tournament time, he's not a guy that strikes up many conversations. But Skeet's built was pretty. He's solid. Again, you get him away from fishing.
I'm gonna tell you who could scrap. I guarantee it. Who could scrap? That's John Cruz.
Yes, he's wiry.
Guarantee
he's got that wiry.
And he's
build.
in shape. Guarantee you, he's by far in better shape than anybody else on the tour.
Yeah, that's a very interesting conversation we're having now.
Okay, Bass and MLF. Let's set it up and actually fight it out.
How about
the hell with talking and everything? Let's fight it out.
A knockout round in MLF should be a knockout round.
Real knockout round.
You got to knock somebody
you
out.
You might win at fishing, but buddy, I ain't got the. I'm not putting odds in your favor on this.
So my opinion on Wheeler is this: I think he's an amazing fisherman. I've met Jacob. I have some, the same mutual friends I do with Jacob. He's always been, again, great guy to me. But what you see on TV, I don't feel like Jacob's trying to be Jacob. He's just trying to. The ding is cool. Now it's the yonders and stuff.
Yep.
Just be normal, because when Wheeler gets out there and he starts talking about the bait he's using, how he's breaking the lake down, it is great information. That is Jacob. But when he starts trying to kind of be a comedian, I think he's losing a few people there.
Yeah. I think the fishing industry as a whole, and we talked about this on Ike Live, it's like, guys, stop trying to be something you're not. Mm-hmm. Listen, dude, I'm going to tell you, I'm a redneck. I like to cuss, I like to talk shit, and I like to carry on, okay? I don't give a crap about what anybody thinks or anything. I'm me. And if the fishing industry, if everybody in the fishing industry would accept that and be who they are instead of this staple angler, then it would be so much more entertaining.
Right. You got to wear your jersey like this. You got to talk like this, and you got to do that. Dude, the blue collar guy that's spending the money on fishing, very few guys are sitting there wearing suits and super straight laced.
Yep.
I mean, we all cuss a little bit. We all drink a few beers. I really don't drink that much, but we're not perfect.
No.
And we have somehow put up on a pedestal that you have to be perfect. Now, what I'm not saying is you're not going to go out there and beat your wife and it's okay. There's still a set of morals and values that everybody wants to hold you accountable for, but you don't have to go up there and on stage and your butt cheeks tight and say perfect sentences. You don't have to go up there and be like,
I'd like to thank my sponsors. I caught them on this. Thank you, everybody, and wave at them.
I'll be honest. I think, guys, you may be sponsored by Strike King, unless something's changed. I think honesty goes a long way. And Gerald Swindle said it one time. He told me, he said, I told Ed Chambers, I said, Ed, I'm not catching them on a Zoom bait. I'm catching them on a Cinco. And Ed said, well, tell people you caught them on a Cinco. I would rather you tell the truth than sit there and lie, because at the end of the day, more people are going to go, I respect Gerald Swindle, and I'm going to buy some Zoom products because he was honest about it. Yep. So when Gerald does catch him on a Zoom product,
he's catching them on it.
They know he's catching them
and
on it.
And I had that conversation with some of the people at Strike King, and Strike King and Luz and whoever else, they don't want you lying about what you caught them on, because whenever you start lying about what you caught them on, your credibility is gone.
Right.
And that's kind of the way I am with these guys. I mean, I could throw 50 names out there that I think's full of shit whenever it comes to their personality. And man, guys, come out of your shell, man. Let's give the people who you really are,
Now I'm gonna put you on the spot. We got another tour coming, supposedly this National Fishing Professional League. You know, we got Paul Benson at Cash In and Brad Fuller at Omega. I know
Who
Brad,
you been talking to?
Good guy. What do you think's gonna go on there? What do they have to do different to get a seed in the market share?
So I have talked about Paul Benson on multiple occasions. We've had conversations about the tour, and I actually think the tour's going to go. I think it's going to happen. I think they have some obstacles. I think part of the obstacles is you're trying to get some of the sponsorship dollars where it's already spread out, since I think if the MLF and Bass deal didn't go the way it did, I think it was much more feasible then.
Right.
I think the sponsorship dollars are spread out, and they got that's going to be their task. But listen, a lot of people don't realize this isn't happening this year. It's not happening next year. It's happening in 2021. And I can tell you from the conversations I've had with the organization and Paul Benson that I do think they're doing it the right way. They're talking to the anglers,
right?
And
some of those guys have reached out to me and asked what I thought, not specifically Paul. At first, I'll be honest, I thought it was just 3 or 4 guys that had a couple beers, and they said, "Well, we're going to put MLF out," but they're trying to go to sponsors. They want to secure funds, and I get that. My only gripe on this is working man $5,000 entry fee.
And I don't even know. I know I'm not going to go into the full conversation, but here's the deal. Where I was coming from is I'm a regular working man just like you, and it's going to cut. They're going to have 6 tournaments, $5,000 a piece, $30,000 for entry fees, and then say $20,000 in expenses. I see and I like Paul, but they say they're going towards the working man, but dude, I ain't got extra 50 G's laying around.
Dude, you know my situation where I work, they freaking low output. If I had to pull up $5,000 right now, I couldn't get enough work to do it. But I like their idea and concept. I like what they're doing. I do think they're smart enough. They're going to tweak a few things.
Yeah, they are. And I'm going to tell you, regardless of us, there are enough people out there in the fishing industry that I'm going to say haven't qualified through the opens, haven't gotten the FLW tour. There are guys out there with enough money that this tour will go.
And that they're good fishermen.
They're good fishermen.
You're going to have a few Jason Christies of the world.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I met the real Jason Christie.
Did you?
I put him on the spot there. Yeah. Nice guy.
Nice guy. I'll be honest with you, though. I don't think Jason likes me a whole lot.
I couldn't tell if he liked me or not when I said I'm here with the real Jason Christie.
Yeah. And, you know, I'd tell him that. I've talked to him a couple times, kind of give me the cold shoulder. But I ain't talking shit about nobody. I'm just telling you what I saw.
And sometimes that's the guy's personality.
Yeah, and it could just be him. And I'm not saying nothing bad, because I think he's a hell of a fisherman, no doubt. But I think that's another thing that everybody thinks all these guys love each other, and I mean,
yeah,
it's the real world, dude. I mean, you're not gonna like certain people.
I'll tell you, at that media days, I went to the media day or whatnot. There were some anglers that I know I thought I was really good friends with, and they were kind of standoffish.
Yeah.
But I didn't take offense to it, because I said, man, dude, if I was fishing the Classic and I'm in this cold ass stadium, rigging my rods, having to answer all this media, I'm probably not going to be super outgoing after about an hour.
Oh, I agree. And it actually wasn't in that aspect that I met him and talked to him. But not saying nothing bad about Jason Christie. You're going to run into people who you like and don't like. And who the hell knows? Dude, people have stuff going on in their lives.
Right.
And you have to remember that these guys also have lives that nobody else sees. And just like me, you may catch me on a day where stuff's not going good.
You're frustrated.
I have a job going wrong. A job's taking too long. I'm in a bad mood. Hell, I get in a bad mood every once in a while. I'm like, but so it's just an observation I made about the guy. I'm not, no hard feelings either way.
You know, I've had
I
people
respect him.
people online, the famous guy that hashtag Baitman is a prick. You know, sometimes I may come off like that. I don't mean to, but I tell you like it is, black or white, and
Yep.
you may not like that. And let's be honest, there's personality conflict, and that don't mean you're bad people or
No.
or you got a bad
No.
personality. Some people just don't jive together.
That's right, and I think people need to learn, and I've learned that that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay.
You don't have to
if
be
two
offended
people don't
because
get
somebody
along.
doesn't like you.
Yeah,
I mean, I want everyone to like me. I think I'm a pretty nice guy when it comes down to it. But I've learned there's some guys I could give them $1 million and they'd still shit on me.
that's right. You know.
But yeah, the whole fishing, I really enjoy that part of your perspective of got to have a personality. So many people said, well, you've got to act like this on stage or you ain't going to get sponsors or you got to do this. I'm going to tell you right now, look at the YouTube kids. They're doing things totally opposite.
You talk about being theirself, you
Right?
know.
And they've made a lot of people mad, but you know what? Their wallet's fat.
So I'm gonna tell you this, and the YouTube kids were down there at Strike King Lou's booth, and you know they were giving stuff away and doing their thing, signing autographs. Young kids. I was actually surprised that the adults that came up to meet them and were signing autographs with them. I didn't even know who these dudes was. Mm-hmm. I'm like, who the heck are these kids? Oh, a bunch of YouTubers. I'm like, what the heck?
Yeah, they're a whole lot bigger than me.
So, I will tell you this about the YouTubers. Make fun of them all you want. I made fun of them a little bit, I ain't gonna lie, but they had a line longer than Kevin Van Dam ever thought about having at the Classic this year to meet those guys.
And those weren't the big Guggen squad.
No, that
those were
wasn't-
just like, Kicking Their Bass TV, Fishing with Norm, Yak Pack. These are guys what I would consider, and this, if any of y'all are listening, mid-level YouTubers. I'm like on the low level.
Yeah, this isn't the Guggen squad. I mean, and I'm talking, they had the lines, the aisles were full for 70 yards, not 70 feet. I'm talking about as
All the
far
way
as you
across.
could see, both ways, to meet them.
So I've been critical of. I'd like to put this on my podcast. I thought about this. I met Noah from Kicking Their Bass TV, and
Yeah.
I'd always been critical of.
Is that the 6 or 7 dudes, 5 or 6 dudes?
He's one of them.
Yeah.
He's from Lanier area, Lake
Okay.
Lanier. He's kind of got that Guido kind of vibe to him. And I'd always joked around, this dude just fishing for ponds. He don't know what he's talking about. And I just went up to him and said, "Hey, man, I'm Kevin Baxter." And he goes, "Oh, yeah, I watch your stuff. The Baitman." I said, "Yeah, I'm surprised at you." And he goes, "Dude, you know so much about baits, and I respect that." And I said, "Listen, I'm going to tell you right now, Noah, I used to not be a fan and very critical, but one thing you're doing in your group of guys, you got hustle.
Yep.
And I will always respect the hustle because that dude was crapped on by a lot of people, other YouTubers, and he just kept bringing out content, and he's evolved. And at the end of the day, dude, I'm sitting there talking to him. Kids are coming up, wanting autographs. I'm like, go take care of them.
Yeah,
Go take
dude,
care of them,
listen.
man.
Hard work pays off, and one thing you gotta realize is, regardless of what anybody says, you have to respect that. Trait Zaldane.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard, you hear little stuff here and there about people, but and I was actually trying to hunt her up and talk to her, but I never got the opportunity. But I did send her a message telling her that she's been fishing the opens for a long time and hasn't had the best success.
Right.
But one thing I can tell you is that she possesses a quality that hardly anybody else possesses, and that's the fact that she doesn't quit.
Right.
She's resilient. She keeps coming, and she knows what her goal is. And she's been fishing the opens 6 to 9 years or something like. I don't know exactly. It's been a while.
Yeah.
But you know what? The hell with everybody else. She's gonna try, and you know what? One day, I hope I think she will. I hope she achieves her dream and makes it to the league.
God,
series.
never had a conversation with Chris Zaldane.
Yeah.
And I know everybody's obsessed with Zaldane because he's a big swim bait guy, and he's also a good finesse fisherman too. I did the little interview you guys saw. That guy was super nice to me. He's like, no handshakes, fist bumps, man. Fist bumps for big baits. Yep. And I told him after I cut the camera off, hey, man, do a little podcast or whatnot. He said, send me a DM on Instagram. You know how our schedule is. I'd love to do it.
Yep.
We'll talk big swim baits. And, hey, I respect that. And I like the going for broke approach he has.
Oh, yeah.
He said, it's the classic. There's no points. Why am I going to throw itty-bitty baits just to get a little bit?
It's Guntersville.
You see, it's Guntersville. I'm going for the bigs.
Yep.
But, you know, Chris didn't exactly come into bass and set it on fire. He had his first couple of years, he kind of struggled.
It was rough.
And then he had one good tournament, and it was like the light switched on him.
I think he gained that confidence. And he trusted his gut, and he went on. He did well last year, coming second in points. I mean, that's something to say.
Yeah, and he was the bridesmaid quite a bit. He's one of those dudes, I think, when he gets a good win, he's really going to...
But let me tell you, whenever you come in second 2 or 3 times, you have the capabilities to win that many times just as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's my opinion.
Yeah. Now, Chris also is probably the best mega bass salesman on the planet, especially on the mag drafts and stuff.
I hope they're dropping some change in his pocket, buddy.
I think they should be. They should be. I'll be honest, I've caught like 2 fish on a mag draft.
I haven't caught a whole... I mean, I even talked to him. I told him, I said, dude, I ain't caught that many on you swim bait.
Mm-hmm.
You know? But, you know what? You can watch it during the tournament. He catches them on
Absolutely. I mean, you can't debate it.
No.
It works. I mean, we see a lot of baits come in and out of the industry that there's no previous footage. It's a guy saying, well, this is the best bladed jig, or this is the best worm or spinnerbait.
Yep.
But there's no proof. I like it when you see these guys fishing these baits before they hit the market, and you're already seeing them on Bass Live or FLW or MLF, and what's that he's throwing? Well, it's a bait that's coming out, and you can tell he's not BSing.
Stetson Blaylock was throwing a new bait.
Yeah. I had a couple people message me, like, what's Stetson throwing? I said, well, I took a photo of his arsenal. I don't know what it is.
I'll tell you what it looked. I don't remember
Looked
what
like
it was.
a speed trap.
Looked like a speed trap, or Bandit used to make that flat max. It kind of looked like the speed trap or a shallow flat max like, but he caught him on it, dude. I mean, proof's in the pudding nowadays with Bass Live. You cannot lie.
Yeah. So if you go out there and say, I caught him on, so even MLF. I won't say the angler, but he had a pack of Strike King Ochos laying on his deck the whole night. He had Guggen baits on his shirt.
Yep.
And I told him about it. He said, dude, I had to use what works. He goes, I wasn't trying to get a sponsorship, but they just wouldn't bite that. And, you can't lie. I mean, I think it's a good thing, too. Like I said, it goes back to I like guys that are honest. Everyone shoved all this stuff down our throat for years. You've got to do it this way, or you've got to do it that way. And look, I'm a Sixth Sense guy, Matt. In case you know this, we're looking at a ton of Sixth Sense behind us. But at the end of the day, if they're not biting a Sixth Sense flat side and I catch them on a flat A, I'm going to throw it.
Yeah.
Does that mean the Sixth Sense is bad and you shouldn't bite? Absolutely not. Fish are moody. One day they want something, one day they want. Reaction Innovations, man. You were talking about a company that's had everyone try to knock them off.
Yep. And they're still plugging away.
They're still plugging away. And those new colors at the Classic, I didn't get all of them. I got 2. They're sweet. I'm going to throw them, man. I like that Spicy Beaver. That doesn't mean I don't like a Rage Menace grub. Obviously, at different times, I'm going to switch back and forth. And sometimes one company offers one color, the other one doesn't. I throw a beaver a lot. I'm going to throw the Sixth Sense prawns. Obviously, different colors, very similar bait.
I'm sponsored by Strike King and Lou's, but I'm still a fan of baits.
Exactly.
I like different companies come out with different baits, and I still like to browse and look at them and, try new stuff. And, I mean...
It just wouldn't be fun if you're always tied down to one thing.
No, and if I'm not catching them on a Strike King bait,
you gotta do what you gotta do.
I may not say exactly what I'm catching them on, but
I have no problem with guys going, well, I caught them on a undisclosed bait.
Yep.
That's not hurting nobody.
No.
And I know you're buddies with Seth Fighter, and everyone said, "Oh, he caught him on a OSP Blitz Max," and he did. But he also still did actually catch fish on a Rapala DT6 and 10. A lot of those fish weren't ones that made the camera roll. You know, you can be live on a guy, but it would be really boring to be on the same guy for 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
And I never got to see Seth. He had a huge crowd, and I wanted to go talk to him and say, "Hey, man, I'm the little dude that lives next to Matt Robertson. Next time you're down, we got to go to Lake X."
Yeah. You know, I talked to Seth about going to Lake X last year, and he is down for it.
I'm ready. He has turned into...
He don't mind the pond hop either.
Right. Dude, I respect him, man. Like, they said, "What are you going to do after this tournament?" "Well, I'm going to go get my wife pregnant, and I'm going to shoot some greenheads."
Yep.
Who wouldn't want to do that?
100%
I'm done getting my wife pregnant, by the way, in case anyone wants to know. We'll just practice from here.
I'm done having kids.
Yeah. So... I think Seth is probably the next really big superstar because, again, the blue-collar guy relates to him.
Yep, exactly.
He paid his dues.
Down to earth, dude. Down to earth. Proper bassing.
Mm-hmm.
Blue-collar can relate to him. I agree.
Well, we've been on here for like an hour and 20 minutes, Matt. As y'all know, I work midnight, so I'm probably going to have to go get some more sleep, even though I didn't work all night last night. Just never know when I go in a pill. I could be there 10 hours, I could be there 2 hours. Matt's got a pressure washing business.
Yep.
So if you live here in the area, I don't know, how far do you go out? To
I
Clarksville,
travel
Nashville?
to Nashville, about a 2-hour radius of Kentucky Dam.
So if you want your home or driveway or business pressure washed, hit Matt up. He'll come pressure wash it, talk some fishing, some baits with you. And if you're good fishing, he might even take you fishing.
We might be able to work something out.
That's right. Well, I'm going to jump off here. I'll get this uploaded, Matt. And, dude, I appreciate you as always coming over.
I appreciate it.
Of course, we'll probably talk for a little bit after this. You're a good dude. Don't care what anyone says about you. And obviously an awesome fisherman.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I appreciate you having me on here.
No problem, Matt.